Welcome, everyone. This is Work Made Human. I'm Nichole Mendez, Director of Talent Acquisition at BAM.
I am head of people at BAM. My name is Jill Vigeland, and with us today, coming from lovely San Diego, California, is Kate Dilligan, founder and CEO of Cooler Heads. Kate, I just realized I didn't ask how to pronounce your last name.
No, you got it. You nailed it. Pretty straightforward.
Cool. Wonderful. Great.
We're so glad you're here, Kate. We do this show because storytelling, of course, is core to BAM. And we know that every team has a human story behind it to tell. So we also know Cooler Heads makes scalp cooling more accessible. So tell us more. What story are you telling with your team right now? Is there a part two, right? A different version of it that you're hoping to tell in the future?
Yeah, so for any listeners that don't know, scalp cooling is a therapy that allows chemotherapy patients to keep their hair. And in 2016, I was a breast cancer patient, and nobody talked to me about hair preservation when I was staring down the barrel of chemotherapy. And the too long didn't read is I wound up spending more than $8,000 to keep my hair during what was an incredibly stressful, high friction process. And my background is I've got a graduate degree, I've got an MBA, I'd worked in tech, and I was like, why isn't this the standard of care? Why isn't this broadly available to patients? So the story that we talk about all day in and out of Cooler Heads, that's also discussed by our patients who, are experiencing this, day in and day out, is what we do is we give chemotherapy patients back their privacy, their agency, and their identity. Because here's the thing, if you have hair, whether you're a man or a woman, and it all of a sudden goes away, everybody's like, are you sick? Yep. Is your partner sick? Is somebody sick? Why'd you shave your head? What's going on? And whether you're in a work setting or a social setting, there's a lot of times that you don't want to be barraged with that. So it's allowing patients to control the narrative on who knows that they're sick. If you're getting the kind of chemo that makes your hair fall out, your life feels completely out of control because everything that you had planned for the holiday season, I did chemo November, December, January, and February, 2016 to 2017. So guess what? All my holiday plans were thrown out the window. It all of a sudden became about how do I get through this season? So it's giving patients some control back when their life is completely out of control. And we're allowing them to look in the mirror when they brush their teeth in the morning and see somebody they recognize. And that's the identity component of it. So what we hear from patients day in, day out on our website, you can go and look at patient tutorials. Like, I got to choose who I told. I got to choose how I showed up for work. And that's what we do. And that's what we're really proud to do day in and day out.
I love that framing of just controlling the narrative. And a lot of us can't relate, right? And those are not things we think about, even in just thinking about the privacy concerns or going through something that you don't want to share, right? And you don't always, whether it's in the workplace or timing.
Well, the interesting thing is, as somebody who was a cancer patient, just to kind of jump in there, Nichole, to kind of expand on that point, is until you've been a patient, you don't recognize the burden that you have as a patient trying to make everybody else feel okay about the fact that you're sick, right? So like the amount of people that I had to comfort about the fact that I had aggressive stage 2B breast cancer was kind of crazy. And like, why is that my problem? Yeah. Like, so again, if we're removing that and allowing patients to, I wanted to be Kate, the tech executive. So I could show up at work and I wasn't Kate, the chemo patient. I could be Kate, the tech executive. I could, be Kate, the friend or the auntie at holiday parties because I still look normal. I didn't have to be Kate, the cancer patient. And that was really powerful.
Yeah. And normalizing or just feeling normal, right?
Yeah.
So touching on that, you're a cancer survivor and you've been open with your journey and beating, is it triple positive breast cancer?
Yeah. Yeah.
So looking back, was there a specific moment or two in your journey where you realized this part of the system was just not built with people in mind?
I mean, honestly, it was within the first week after my diagnosis. So they were trying to get me in for an MRI before I started chemotherapy. And so I'm on, trying to find a place to get the MRI because, I got the diagnosis, let's call it like the second, third week of November. And I started chemo the first week of November, right? So from mid-October to early November, like that's like 2-3 weeks. We were cramming in all these appointments.
Go.
And I remember where I was on the 5 freeway driving into work, and I'm on the phone with somebody trying to schedule this MRI, and they're like, well, your insurance hasn't approved it yet, so you just need to agree that you'll be financially liable if your insurance doesn't approve the MRI.
Wow.
And I was like, well, how much is that going to cost? And she puts me on hold, goes away for 2 minutes, comes back, and she's like, well, it shouldn't be more than $5,000. But she couldn't give me an answer. Wow. And I've got the fancy job. I've got the graduate degree. And so if it ain't designed for me, it isn't designed really for anybody. It's designed, and not to go, all pitchforks, but healthcare in the United States is not designed with the patients in mind. So what we try to do very intentionally at Cooler Heads is eliminate all the friction around this particular therapy, around scalp cooling, so it can be broadly available.
I'm just listening to you talk, and I know so many people listening will feel the same way. We all know someone who has had cancer. We all do. Yeah. And I'm just like going through my mind right now, all the various people I've had where truly the minute I see them without their hair, my heart, right? And it takes a while to adjust to not be the thing you focus on and see. So
and the person who's bald, they know. Yeah. They know that they're this big blinking neon light that like, oh, I'm sick, everybody.
Yeah. And all you want is to just be like you said, just be Kate, the human, woman, aunt, sister, tech exec, So one, just thank you right off the bat. I feel like I'm taking so much from this and how I'm going to move forward. I have a cousin right now going through it, and I just sent him a voice message, and I'm like, girl, okay. But anyway, so just thank you for that. But since our podcast is called Work Made Human, I have a question for you about what it was like from when you went from being a patient to now, or to not now, but to have building something for patients. How did that change the way you think about your own work and purpose?
When I was done with treatment, an important part of my story is in the 3 years prior to my getting sick, both my parents had gotten sick, very severely sick, and had passed away. So I really had this sort of like 3-4 years of just really profound loss. Watching my mom get sick with metastatic lung cancer, she passed away. My father had Parkinson's and Parkinson's dementia. So once my mother died, we weren't able to keep him at their home in LA anymore. I had to move him into memory care here in San Diego. He passed away in January 2016. Then I find a lump in September 2016. So it was just like boom, boom, boom. So for me, when I was done with treatment and I'd had some pretty lousy things happen to me at the company where I'd been working at, because I worked all throughout treatment, I thought, because a cancer diagnosis, and everybody says this, like you have these like life-changing things where you're like, okay, like I just have a different perspective. I decided to swing for the fences and see if I could use my network, my creativity, my grit, my kind of foolishness of not knowing that it's so hard to do, and jump in and, swing for the fences and be like, if I had a clean sheet of paper and I was going to invent this therapy all over again, how would I do it? And with the Stanford MBA, with all these things, it was still incredibly hard because I don't come from med device. I worked in politics. I have a Stanford MBA. Then I worked in the national security space and tech in software. And so everybody was like, well, this is a great idea, but you don't actually know what you're doing. You've never sold to a health system. You've never done this. You've never done that. And what I decided is I was going to learn everything that I could. I was going to surround myself with subject matter experts. And when I started to see through lines, that would be the path that I would follow. Because, ignorance is bliss, right? Like I had no idea how hard this was going to be.
Something to be said for that. There's a lot to be said for that. A lot.
Exactly. Because if you don't know, you're like, this is a great idea, And I also had friends that encouraged me to do this and be like, well, if not you, then who?
Yeah. Yeah.
You were identifying the issues along the way too.
Yeah. Exactly. So I guess the way that my perspective changed is, the things in life that I truly regret are the things that I chickened out of. And so going through, this season of loss, then wanted to be like, well, what could I build? If this is what I leave, in this mortal coil, again, I'm not dying anytime soon. Like I have no evidence of disease, but like, if this is something that I do and I can meaningfully, currently, like we've made a difference in thousands of patients' lives, then that's worth getting up in the morning for.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So you mentioned your background in politics, tech, now med tech. I'm curious, what has moving through all these different worlds taught you about how people are treated in systems, and how does that shape how you treat people at Cooler Head, that your team, your organization?
So I think, the high performing teams that I've been a part of, in all of these different areas are places where you have a team that is all focused in the same direction, and you've got a decent amount of subject matter expertise, but you have a ton of curiosity and grit.
Yeah.
And so, I have several, everybody's got examples in their lives of like ways that they were treated terribly. But as a startup founder, I'm selling not only my investors, but early on, we raised a substantial Series A. We've got we've got large institutional investors now. But I'm leading our team along with a string, like with the promise of like, we will be able to raise this money. We will be able to grow and scale this. We will be able to exit this. And so you have to approach that at Cooler. The way I've approached it, I think, is with, asking people to bring their ideas and really listening to them and giving people a voice at the table, and also transparency. And so, it took us more than a year to raise our Series A, and things it was quite the journey to get there. But by being transparent and earning the trust of my team, like the core team, Courtney Turek, who's our, commercial lead, Nick, who leads our engineering and production team, they've now been with me for years. And, in startup land, like that's a big deal, that there isn't a ton of turnover at the top. And we're adding an absolutely incredible VP of market access in January. So being able to attract top tier talent and getting them to stay, they have to be valued. They have to understand that you as the leader are bringing, that they believe in what you're doing, and that by being transparent, that they can trust you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that you're going to tell them when things aren't going well. And then what's your plan B? Like I'm a big believer in always having a plan B and a plan C, and being like, well, this is the plan A. This is what we would like to have happen. But if this doesn't happen, we have a fallback position. Because you just have to do that these days in tech, especially in med device.
And startup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Because here's the thing, like anybody can slap on, when I was starting this company, I was given the advice about, just find a technical co-founder. And even if they don't really do anything, just give them some equity and give them the title, and maybe they'll come to some meetings. You can put them on a slide deck. And I never did that, because I was the only one, for the first 3.5 years working on this full time without any paycheck. I was like, I'm not going to give somebody a bunch of equity for, something that I'm starting, that I'm pouring my blood, sweat, and tears, and, eating into my savings, and like doing all these things to get it over the line. I'm not just going to hand that to somebody. Yeah. So I really wanted people who were excited about this, because they bring that excitement. Like, here's the great thing. Like, Courtney has attracted talent from other places she's worked. Nick has attracted talent from other places he's worked. I've brought people to this company from other parts of my life. And, like our head of clinical was actually my nurse navigator when I was a patient. So like our capacity to pull people because we're all bought in, like that's really powerful. I mean, you guys are, are talent people, HR professionals, and you can't keep people. It's not indentured servitude.
Mm-mm. No. And it's no longer expected, like generationally, that story is over, of staying somewhere for 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
And we're not Kodak. Like, you're not going to get the gold watch in 20 years at Cooler Heads. But that's not what people want anyway. No.
Hey, firstly, you are speaking our language, and I say all the time, leadership has to be bought in, and you see that whether it's benefits or why you're around, right? It goes up and it trickles down. And that's why we're here. That's why we're having these conversations. And we hope other teams buy into that as well. But just touching on everything we've already discussed from your experiences, whether it's in the tech space, in the politics space, as a leader, as a former patient, if you could redesign one part of the modern workplace just based on those experiences, what would you start with and why?
I would move away from email and text as a primary form of communication. I think that there's so much that's lost in not having a conversation. I've seen this time and time again. Like, we've doubled our headcount in the last year, and we've got, phenomenal people. But email, and whether it's Slack or Teams or whatever, or via text, like whatever, like things can come across flat. Things can come across like, hey, could you get me that? To, hey, can you get me that? Right? Like, and you never know how that's being projected. So the thing that I have encouraged people is, there's the old joke, RTFM, read the flippin' manual. Well, I talk about UIFW, use your flippin' words. Like, pick up the phone and have a conversation with somebody, because there's been several instances where just the last follow-up question, well, why do you need it that way? And like, you ask that and you're like, oh, I get it. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
That is so funny. We had someone on the team ages ago. I forgot what, it wasn't anything that serious, but to your point, things get completely misread on Slack, on email, all the things. Reacted to like, I think it was a decision or like an update, kind of with the laughing face, but it was the crying one.
Yeah.
And their response was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, what's wrong? That was joy. Like, that's not how I read
it. Like subjected, like up to your interpretation, right? And where you're coming from when you receive the text. So you're a big proponent of getting on the phone, like voice to voice or face to face.
Correct. And that's why, like, we're doing, in med device, you have what's called a national sales meeting where you bring in all the sales reps, and it's sort of like, what did we do last year? So we're having that here in San Diego in February, and we're bringing the whole company together because, we're based here in San Diego, but we've got reps and other functions across the country. Our controller is in Michigan. Our new VP is in Minnesota. Like, people are everywhere. Like, and I haven't met her in person yet, but we're all coming together to, sit in a hotel, conference room, but, have a couple of drinks in the evening and just like spend that time together. And I really encourage that, because that makes it so much easier when you've got a quick question or you really need somebody to go out of their way to do something. You just shoot them a text and be like, hey, do you have 5 minutes? Can we chat?
Yeah. No,
So
sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Kate, talking about other teams, right? If there was one story or quick anecdote you could tell other leaders, so other companies, other teams, about a situation you went through, what would that story be? Maybe
So
specifically that makes them really think about how they're showing up at work and treating people at work as a leader.
Yeah. So, at the company where I was before I started this company, I was employee number 2. I was very much, the right hand, I worked very closely with the CEO. My title kind of moved around a couple of places, but, so this is the beginning of 2015. So we moved, my mother died right before Thanksgiving 2014. We had to move my dad to memory care shortly thereafter because anyway, bunch of logistics, doesn't really matter. But we moved my dad into memory care the weekend, like the weekend after Christmas. So it was the weekend right before, the new business year started. And so on Sunday night, my CEO called me up and he knew that I had, we just buried my mom. We were moving my dad into memory care. We were going to sell the home that, I grew up in, because my father just couldn't live there anymore. And he wasn't trying to be difficult, but he really, like, he had all these things at work that were happening, and he picked up the phone. And when he called me on a Sunday night to kind of like game plan for the week, he's like, Kate, the party's over. I need you back.
Wow. The party.
The party. I mean, it felt like a slap in the face. And so what I would encourage other leaders is like, yeah, you know what, like we have, depending on, if you're in tech and you've gotten people options or, people are well compensated these days, but like understand where people are. And every single time that I've been a little more human to somebody, it has always paid off in spades in terms of loyalty.
Yes.
And he lost some of my loyalty with that conversation.
Yeah.
I was like, I've been busting my ass for you for a decade.
Wow.
And you're going to say that to me?
Beck, Jill, I'm thinking about what she says all the time, right? Is people have their seasons.
Yeah.
And meeting them where they are. So.
Yeah.
That would leave a mark. That's the sort of thing where like you just trust immediately, like just comes down for sure. And Beck, we talk a lot at BAM about work of a lifetime with people of a lifetime. If you're fortunate enough to find work of a lifetime and then get to do it with people of a lifetime, respecting that there are seasons where you're going to have loss in family or childbirth, of the variety, the whole gamut, and really honoring that. And not enough organizations do that. So yeah, I have a question about you building something out of such a personal experience and how heavy that can be. And it makes me reflect back. My mother passed away from pancreatic cancer years ago. And at the time, a friend.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's a tough one. None of it's great, but it's just a quick.
Yeah, no, none of it's like, oh, that's the great one to die from. Like,
no.
Yeah.
So, but the reason I bring it up is a friend also, her dad had passed away from it, and her sister started a nonprofit and asked me to come work there, and it was for like research on pancreatic cancer. And I remember being like, it wasn't that long after my mom had died, and I was like, I can't do it. Like it was too close and too heavy for me. So. What practices or boundaries do you have that help you stay grounded while carrying work that matters so much and is so personal?
So I finished radiation at the end of July in 2017, and I incorporated cooler heads in April of 2018. So I hadn't been done with treatment for a year. And the thing that I learned, and I was very fortunate to get some fantastic mentorship here in San Diego, I really had to learn to tell the story in a way that was dispassionate because I care so much about it. And early on, it was just so frustrating to me. Like, why don't people want to invest? Like, but it was almost like my vulnerability, my passion for it, honestly became almost an Achilles heel because people were like, well, should this be a nonprofit? Can you really make money doing that? Like, So it was actually getting some really good mentorship and really practicing the pitch and how we talk about this and being like, do you know why I know how to do this? Because I was that patient. But like having that be at the end of the pitch, not leading with it, really learning how to tell the story because it's interesting. And I don't know if this is being, a first-time female founder. And also I'm a first-time female founder in medical device. I'm not an engineer by training. I've never done hardware before. So there was already a lot of skepticism. Yeah. And so I really had to practice telling that story and also focusing in on what were the proof points. So like, here are the, key opinion leaders, like here are oncologists at UCSF and City of Hope that, here's, the head of oncology at this major health system that's now an angel investor because he's like, yeah, somebody needs to fix how this is done. And like really figuring out like, what are those incremental proof points that you can hit to be like, no, I'm taking away risk. I'm proving I can do this. I'm taking away risk. That became really important.
Wow.
Goes back to controlling the narrative in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I know we're about there. Nichole, I don't know if you had one more question before I have one final. We'll do our little wrap up, but.
Do you want to do your final and then I'll
ask? Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, Kate, this has just been lovely. And Nichole and I say this every time we have a conversation with someone who is so passionate about the work that they do and the people that they do the work with. So thank you. We just could go on and on and on. But it has been lovely getting to have you here today on Work Made Human.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's a great conversation to have.
Thank you. And just, to everyone listening, watching, this is Kate Dilligan, the founder and CEO of Cooler Heads. And I have one final question before I let you go. And actually, technically, we have two because Nichole has a little bonus one. But what gives you hope about the future of work?
What gives me hope about the future of work is thinking back to when I graduated from college, dating myself in the 90s and looking to the fact that we now have supercomputers in our pockets. And I think, I think that we're going through an uneven period right now. We're figuring out, like, we were trying to figure out how could we make technology work for us. And I kind of feel like we're working for the technology, but I think these things are cyclical. So I'm excited to see, with all of these new tools, but they're not going to replace human beings. So how do we really get control of these tools in a way that, is a net benefit? Because there's certain things that only people can do.
Yeah. So true.
We have a fun question, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
But we're gonna circle back. There's the point. So you brag about your dogs a lot, and
I do.
My glass is reflecting. I have your LinkedIn pulled up, and one of your fur babies on here on a little cooler heads. I don't know if it's like a bed. It looks like a bed.
Yeah. It's a neck pillow that we provide our patients with. Yeah.
It's so fun. I have 3 dogs myself. So I love bragging about them, and I'm sure you do as well. So looking back, what is one lesson that your 2 fur babies have taught you that no book of business out there ever has or ever can? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, this is a good one. But like, you have to be present every single day. Because like, here's the thing, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I woke up yesterday, like, I'm not coughing. I'm glad I haven't been coughing throughout this whole thing, but like, I kind of have a cold. Like, I didn't really feel that good. I had a dog when I was going through chemotherapy, and guess what? She needed to be taken care of every single day. They're actually the first weekend after I had chemo, I was sitting in my living room and I was really just feeling bad. And all of a sudden my golden retriever comes up and she just barfs on the floor next to me. And I'm like, I went through chemo and now I have to clean up dog puke? Are you serious?
About you.
Dogs will do that.
You have to show up every day.
Yeah. Beautiful. What are their names before we let you go? What are your dogs' names?
Opal and Lupita. So Lupita is the one on my LinkedIn profile and the other one is Opal.
Is that the golden retriever?
The golden retriever passed away. So Opal moved in when Cora went to her rest. But if anybody goes to my Instagram, you'll see lots of dog content.
Wow. I love it. I have a golden too. I have a golden, a St. Bernard, and a Pity. Thank you so much, Kate. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Really enjoyed the conversation, ladies. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Have a good afternoon. Bye, Kate.
You too. Bye.